My daughter sold my house while I was on vacation, destroying the foundation of my life to pay off her husband's reckless debts. When I returned, they laughed at me. "You're homeless now, old man." Their laughter echoed as I stood on the street, but I smiled, knowing that the house they sold held a secret. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you were listening in the comments. The key snapped in the lock. I stood there for a moment, staring at the broken piece of metal in my hand, my luggage still sitting on the driveway behind me. The Arizona sun beat down on my neck as I tried the lock again with the remaining stub. Nothing. My electronic garage opener had already failed. The little green light just blinked red when I pressed it. Even the doorbell camera, the one Jennifer had insisted I install last year, showed no recognition when I waved at it. "Can I help you?" A man stood in my doorway. My doorway. He was younger than me, maybe 50, wearing a Cardinals t-shirt I'd never seen before. Behind him, I could see my foyer, but the walls were a different color, sage green instead of the cream I'd lived with for 15 years. This is my house," I said, the words coming out strangled. I checked the number on the wall, 2847, right number, right street. "I'm Robert Mitchell. I live here." The man's expression shifted from suspicious to uncomfortable. "Sir, I think there's been some mistake. We bought this house 3 weeks ago. I'm Samuel Thompson." My knees actually buckled. I had to grab the doorframe, my doorframe, to stay upright. 3 weeks ago, I'd been on a small boat in Prince William Sound, watching orcas breach in the distance. 3 weeks ago, I'd finally taken the Alaska fishing trip I'd been promising myself since retirement. "That's impossible," I heard myself say. My voice sounded thin, like someone else was speaking. "I own this house. I've owned it since 2010. Samuel Thompson, and how could there be a Samuel Thompson in my house, pulled out his phone. "Gloria," he called over his shoulder, "maybe you should call the police." "No, wait." I fumbled for my own phone, my fingers suddenly clumsy. There's been a mistake. My daughter Jennifer, she was supposed to be watching the place. I hit Jennifer's number. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Samuel stood in the doorway, not threatening, but not moving either. His wife, Gloria, apparently, appeared behind him, already on her phone. I could hear her giving someone our address. My address. "Dad?" Jennifer's voice was strange, tight. "Are you back?" "There are strangers in our house," I said. The words tumbled out desperate and confused. "Jennifer, what's happening? Why are there people in the house?" Silence. Then a sigh. That particular sigh she'd perfected as a teenager, the one that meant I was being difficult. "Dad, stop being dramatic. I sold it." The world tilted. I actually had to sit down on my own front step, or what used to be my front step. Samuel Thompson took a step back, maybe worried I was having a heart attack. I felt like I might be. "You... what?" "I sold the house. Michael needed the money for his debts. We had that power of attorney, remember? From when you had your gallbladder surgery?" Michael. I could hear him in the background, actually laughing. My son-in-law was laughing while my daughter explained how she'd sold my home. "Jennifer, you can't just sell someone's house. That's not what power of attorney means. That's not..." "It's done, Dad. Check into a hotel. We need to talk." She hung up. My daughter hung up on me while I sat on a stranger's front step, my front step, with my broken key still clutched in my hand. The police arrived within minutes. 2 officers, both young enough to be my grandchildren. They were professional, even sympathetic, but the documentation Samuel Thompson showed them was clear. Sale completed 3 weeks ago. New deed filed with the county. Everything legal and proper, at least on paper. "Sir," the younger officer said, her hand gentle on my elbow, "if you don't leave voluntarily, I'll have to escort you." I stood up slowly, my body moving on autopilot. 40 years of legal training kicked in, and I found myself automatically cataloging everything. The date on the sale documents, the signature that looked like mine but couldn't be, the notary seal. Jennifer had been thorough. "My luggage," I said, surprised at how steady my voice sounded. Samuel Thompson, and I was already starting to hate that name, helped me load my suitcases into the police car. Not arrested, the officers assured me repeatedly. Just a courtesy ride to a hotel. They were kind about it, which somehow made it worse. As we pulled away, I turned to look back at my house through the rear window. New landscaping out front, desert roses where my lawn used to be, a different mailbox, small changes that added up to erasure. 15 years of my life, gone in 3 weeks. My phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer. Fairmont Scottsdale, I booked you a room. We'll talk tomorrow. The older officer glanced at me in the rearview mirror. You okay back there, sir? I nodded, still staring at that text. My daughter had booked me a hotel room. She'd planned this. While I was in Alaska, watching the northern lights and feeling grateful for my life, for my family, she'd been stealing everything. Actually, I said, my voice surprising me with its steadiness, I'm going to need a lawyer. The officer nodded, probably thinking I meant for a civil dispute. He didn't understand yet. Neither did Jennifer. 40 years in corporate law had taught me many things, but the most important was this. Documents tell stories. And forged documents? They tell the most interesting stories of all. The Fairmont Scottsdale princess rose from the desert like a monument to excess, all pink stucco and palm trees. The police officers had been kind enough to drive me here, even helping with my luggage. The younger one had slipped me a business card for a victim's advocate. Victim. That word sat in my stomach like a stone. The hotel lobby was all marble and soft lighting, the kind of place Jennifer would choose to make a point. See, Dad? I can afford to put you up somewhere nice. I'm not a monster. The concierge smiled at me with practiced sympathy as I approached the desk, my suitcases still smelling of Alaskan sea spray. Checking in? She asked. Name? Robert Mitchell. My daughter made a reservation. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. Oh yes, Mr. Mitchell. Jennifer Carter called earlier. She said you might be tired from your travels. Tired? Is that what Jennifer had told them? I wondered what else she'd said. That I was confused? Senile? The rage that had been building since my key broke in the lock threatened to spill over, but I pushed it down. 40 years of depositions had taught me the value of a neutral expression. How long will you be staying with us? The clerk asked, sliding the key cards across the marble counter. That depends, I said, taking the cards, on how long it takes to reclaim what's mine. The room was on the 3rd floor, overlooking the golf course. I sat on the bed for a full minute, just breathing. Then I opened my laptop. Thank God for cloud storage. Thank God for my paranoid habit of scanning everything. The documents were all there. The Mitchell Family Trust, established 2010. The deed to the house, clearly stating that any sale required signatures from all trustees. Me, Jennifer, and my son David in Seattle, who I'd bet my last dollar had no idea what his sister had done. I found the power of attorney Jennifer had mentioned. Limited power of attorney, specifically for medical decisions during my gallbladder surgery 2 years ago. It had expired 6 months after the procedure. She'd known that. Of course she'd known that. My phone rang. David. Dad? Jennifer just called me. She said you're having some kind of episode? Your sister sold my house while I was in Alaska. Silence. Then, she did what? She forged my signature, David. And yours too, I'm betting, since the trust required all 3 of us to approve any sale. Jesus Christ. Dad, I'll fly down. No, not yet. I need to handle this correctly. I pulled up another document, the sale paperwork Samuel Thompson had shown me. Someone had emailed it to the police, who'd forwarded it to me. Professional courtesy. David, did you sign anything about the house recently? Nothing? Dad, you know I wouldn't. I know. I studied the signatures. Mine was close, but the R was wrong. I'd spent a career looking at documents, and forgeries always had tells. I need you to send me a notarized statement that you never signed any sale documents. Can you do that today? Already walking to my car. Dad, why would she do this? I thought about Michael's laughter in the background of that phone call. Gambling debts, probably. Your brother-in-law always did think he was smarter than the house. After David hung up, I sat in that expensive hotel room, still in yesterday's travel clothes, and made a decision. I could call the police now, report the forgery. But that would be simple theft, maybe some jail time. No. Jennifer had stolen more than a house. She'd stolen my trust, my security, my faith in family. I wanted her to understand what that felt like. The next morning, I drove my rental car to Jennifer's house in Paradise Valley. Of course she lived in Paradise Valley, in a house twice the size of the one she'd stolen from me. Michael's real estate development business was supposedly booming, but now I wondered how much of their lifestyle was built on credit and lies. Michael answered the door in a bathrobe at 10 in the morning, a cup of coffee in his hand. He didn't look surprised to see me. Robert, he said, not even pretending to call me Dad anymore. Jen's in the kitchen? The house smelled like new money, candles that cost more than most people's groceries, fresh flowers in every room. Jennifer sat at a marble island that could have seated 12, her laptop open, her expression already set in that defensive mask I recognized from her teenage years. Dad, she started, before you say anything, 380,000, I said, sitting down across from her. That's the number, isn't it? That's what Michael owes. Michael's coffee mug froze halfway to his lips. Jennifer's mouth opened, then closed. How did you? I've been awake since 4 a.m., making calls. Amazing what people will tell a retired corporate lawyer who mentions the words federal investigation and fraud. Your husband's bookie was particularly chatty. Michael set down his mug too hard, coffee sloshing. You don't know who you're dealing with, old man. No, I said, keeping my voice level. You don't. Sit down, Michael. He sat. 40 years of commanding boardrooms had uses beyond corporate law. Here's what's going to happen, Jennifer said, rallying. You're 67, Dad. You don't need that big house. Consider this retirement planning. We've set aside money for a nice assisted living place. The same place you had Mother in before she died? That hit home. Jennifer flinched. She'd put my wife in the cheapest facility she could find, visited once a month if that. I'd spent every day there, watching the love of my life fade in a room that smelled like industrial disinfectant and despair. You're right, I said, standing. I am retiring. Jennifer's face relaxed slightly. From being your safety net. I walked to the door, then turned back. They were both still sitting there, Jennifer's mouth open, Michael's face flushed red. You committed forgery, fraud, elder abuse, and conspiracy. Those are just the state charges. The federal charges will be much more interesting. I pulled out my phone, took a photo of them sitting there in their marble kitchen. James Harrison sends his regards, by the way. You remember James, former federal prosecutor? He's fascinated by your case. Outside, I stood on their manicured lawn and really looked at their house. 6 bedrooms for 2 people, 3-car garage with a Tesla, a Range Rover, and a Porsche. A pool that sparkled unused in the backyard. All of it built on sand, waiting for the tide to come in. I texted Harrison, "Gather the team, we're going to war." I'd been a father for 39 years, tried to protect Jennifer even when she didn't deserve it, but standing there in the morning sun, looking at the house she'd bought with stolen money, I felt something shift inside me, the part of me that made excuses for her, that said she was still my little girl. That part died as cleanly as if it had been surgically removed. Time to be something else. Time to be what Jennifer had forced me to become. A predator. Harrison's office building stood like a glass and steel monument to justice, or at least to billable hours. The elevator ride to the 14th floor took forever. Brass doors reflecting a version of me I barely recognized. 3 days of hotel living had sharpened something in my face. The soft grandfather was gone. What stared back looked more like the prosecutor I'd been 40 years ago, before corporate law softened my edges. Margaret, Harrison's secretary, stood when I entered. We'd worked together during the Pembroke merger and Innocine. Her smile wavered between sympathy and excitement. She lived for cases like this. "He's waiting in conference room A," she said, "with the team." The hallway stretched ahead, marble floors echoing each step like a countdown. That smell hit me first. Leather chairs and old paper, the perfume of legal warfare. It pulled me back to my first big case, when I'd been young and believed justice was simple. Harrison had transformed the conference room into a command center. Papers covered the mahogany table in neat rows, color-coded and labeled. 4 laptops hummed. 2 printers waited like soldiers. The whiteboard showed a timeline that made Jennifer's deception look like what it was. Criminal. Robert. Harrison stood, all 6'4" of him, silver hair still perfect at 70. Ready to destroy them? The forensics expert arrived at 9:30 sharp. Dr. Patricia Chen carried equipment that looked better suited for a crime lab than a law office. She spread Jennifer's forged documents across the table, then produced a magnifying apparatus that could probably see individual atoms. "Look here," she said, positioning the lens over my supposed signature. "The pressure patterns are completely wrong. Your authentic signature shows consistent rightward slant with heavy downstrokes. This," she tapped the forgery, Was written by someone naturally left-handed compensating with their right hand. Jennifer was left-handed, had been since childhood, after she broke her right arm falling off her bike. The ink aging is even more damning, Chen continued, pulling out another device. This document claims to be from February 20th, but the ink chemistry shows it's less than 4 weeks old, maybe 3. Harrison was taking notes on his legal pad, the scratching of his pen the only sound. Then he looked up. This is textbook fraud, Robert. Prosecutable, winnable, devastating. The timeline on the whiteboard told the story better than any closing argument. February 20th. Jennifer claimed I signed the sale documents. February 20th. Her Instagram showed her at the Bellagio in Vegas, champagne glass raised. February 21st. Another post, poolside. February 22nd. Still Vegas. Meanwhile, I'd been in Phoenix that entire week, medical appointments every day, all documented. There's more, Harrison said. He pulled out another file. The notary who authenticated these documents? Linda Walsh. Guess who she works for? I waited. Sylvia Chen, the real estate agent who handled the sale, Jennifer's college roommate. The pieces clicked together like chambering around. This wasn't impulse or desperation. This was conspiracy. I want this airtight, I said, my voice steady despite the rage building in my chest. No escape routes, no technicalities. When we drop this on them, I want it to be complete annihilation. Harrison smiled, the kind of smile that had terrified Fortune 500 CEOs. We'll file 3 ways: civil for damages and house return, criminal for fraud, forgery, and elder abuse, federal for wire fraud and conspiracy. Dr. Chen packed her equipment carefully. Mr. Mitchell, in 30 years of forensic document examination, I've never seen such amateur work. Your daughter might have succeeded with a casual observer, but under any real scrutiny, this falls apart completely. How quickly can we freeze their assets? I asked Harrison. By end of day, they won't be able to buy coffee tomorrow. We walked to the courthouse through morning heat that was already oppressive. March in Arizona was unpredictable, freezing one day, blazing the next. Today felt like summer had arrived early, adding urgency to everything. The court clerk's eyes widened as she read through the filing. Harrison had assembled something beautiful in its thoroughness. Every document, every piece of evidence, every legal precedent arranged like movements in a symphony of destruction. Mr. Harrison, she said, this is one of the most comprehensive filings I've seen. Judge Martinez agreed to see us immediately. Professional courtesy, Harrison called it. 2 old warriors asking a favor from another. The emergency injunction was signed within an hour. Asset freeze, immediate and complete. Jennifer and Michael's accounts, their property, even their cars, all frozen pending investigation. The process server was a young woman named Amy, eager and efficient. Harrison had chosen her specifically because she had a body camera, standard procedure for her company. Workplace or home, she asked. Workplace, I said. Lunch hour, maximum witnesses. We followed in Harrison's Mercedes, parking across from Jennifer's office building, Phoenix Financial Advisory, where she'd worked for 15 years, where her colleagues thought she was a devoted daughter caring for her aging father. Amy entered at 12:17. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, we could see the reception area, then Amy being directed deeper into the building. Then, nothing for 5 minutes. 6, 7. At 12:25, we saw it. Jennifer in a glass-walled conference room, client presentation in full swing. Amy entering, the envelope extended. Jennifer's face changing from annoyance to confusion to shock. Her clients, 3 men in expensive suits, watching her world crack. My phone rang. Jennifer's panicked breathing filled my ear before she spoke. Dad, what have you done? My credit cards aren't working. The bank says my accounts are frozen. Michael's voice roared in the background, cursing and breaking things. I heard glass shatter. Jennifer's breathing got more ragged. You committed fraud, Jennifer. You stole my house. What did you expect? Dad, you don't understand. Michael knows people, dangerous people. If we can't pay them, that sounds like a you problem. I hung up and immediately called Vincent Morales, a private investigator I'd used during my corporate days. He answered on the first ring. Roberto, thought you'd retired. So did I. I need everything on Michael Carter. Focus on his gambling debts and who he owes. On it. 3 days later, March 26th, I learned what desperation looked like. The hotel parking garage was supposed to be secure, but Michael had found a way in. 3 in the morning, according to my phone, when his pounding woke me. Not on the door. He was in the hallway, but he was hitting the walls, making noise. I triggered my recording app before opening the door. Michael looked like he'd aged 5 years in 3 days. Bloodshot eyes, 3-day stubble, clothes that had been slept in. The smell of whiskey hit me from 6 feet away. "You're killing us, old man," he slurred, pushing past me into the room. "Michael, you're drunk. Leave before I call security." "Security?" He laughed, ugly and harsh. "You think security matters? You know who Tony Torino is?" I didn't, but I kept recording. "Tony Torino collects debts, Robert, and he collects in blood when the money's not there. 380,000 due last month. But you knew that, didn't you?" "I know you stole my house to pay your gambling debts." Michael stepped closer. His breath was toxic. "Accidents happen, Robert, especially to old men. Weak hearts, bad falls. Disappeared completely sometimes. Even in nice hotels." "Is that a threat, Michael?" "It's a promise. Drop the charges, unfreeze the accounts, or you'll wish Jennifer had put you in the same trash home as your wife." The rage that hit me was volcanic, but I stayed still. The recording was everything. "Get out!" He left, but not before kicking over a lamp. Hotel security arrived minutes later. I'd texted them the moment he'd started pounding walls. They reviewed their cameras, took statements, called the police. Michael was gone, but everything was documented. Morales met me the next day at a scenic overlook in the McDowell Mountains. He handed me a folder, thick with photos and documents. "Your son-in-law is in deep," he said. "Tony the Hammer Torino is old-school Vegas mob. Officially, he runs a construction company. Unofficially, he's the most dangerous debt collector in 3 states. The photos showed Michael meeting with a man who looked like violence incarnate. Torino was huge, scarred, with dead eyes that had seen everything and felt nothing. "There's more," Morales continued. "Michael owes 3 casinos besides the Bellagio, private games with businessmen who don't take IOUs. Total debt is closer to $500,000. How long has this been going on?" "Years, but here's the interesting part. Jennifer's been signing loan documents too, except..." He pulled out another photo. "I talked to 3 witnesses who say she's never been to these games, never met these people. Michael's been forging her signature too." The irony was almost beautiful, the forger being forged. April 5th brought unexpected allies. Samuel Thompson called, his voice tight with controlled anger. "Mr. Mitchell, we need to talk. Our title insurance company is investigating, but they're dragging their feet. My wife is devastated. We saved 20 years for this house. I understand, Mr. Thompson. You're victims too. The thing is, we've learned something. Our real estate agent, Sylvia Chen, she and your daughter go way back. College roommates. She pushed us to close quickly, said there were other offers. Now we know why." Gloria Thompson took the phone. "Mr. Mitchell, we'll testify. We'll help however we can. We just want our money back and these people punished." Their lawyer, Christine Park, was young, hungry, and brilliant. She'd found connections between Jennifer and Sylvia going back years. Shared vacations, mutual investments, a pattern of suspicious real estate transactions. "This isn't their first time," Park said when we met. "I've found 3 other properties with questionable sales patterns, all elderly owners, all quick cash sales below market value." April 10th. Court-ordered mediation. The mediator was a retired judge named Franklin, who'd seen everything and tolerated nothing. Jennifer arrived in a designer suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary, a choice that screamed either denial or defiance. Brennan, her lawyer, tried to control the narrative. "My client was manipulated by her husband. She's a victim of domestic coercion." Michael exploded. "Coercion? She planned the whole thing, showed me the trust documents, told me exactly how to..." Brennan grabbed Michael's arm, but it was too late. "You told me he was dying," Michael screamed at Jennifer. "Said he'd never know, said the Alaska trip was perfect timing." Security dragged Michael out, still screaming. Jennifer's mask finally slipped completely. She looked at me with eyes I'd never seen before, cold, calculating, empty. "You were supposed to die on that trip," she said quietly. "The boat captain was paid to have an accident, but you chose a different tour company last minute." The room went silent. Even Franklin looked shocked. Brennan was frantically trying to stop his client from talking, but Jennifer kept going. "You always were lucky, Dad." My phone buzzed. Text from Harrison. Jennifer just withdrew $50,000 cash from an account we missed. Second text from Morales. Michael just met with Torino again. Torino didn't look happy. The pieces clicked. They weren't going to fight anymore. They were going to run. My phone rang. Unknown number, Nevada area code. The courthouse metal detector beeped at my knee replacement, same as it had for 15 years. Officer Martinez waved me through with a nod. We'd known each other since the early 2000s, back when I tried cases here weekly. Jennifer arrived 10 minutes later with a new attorney, Sandra Chen, whose reputation preceded her like a bad smell. Chen defended the kind of people who thought laws were suggestions and ethics were for the poor. "Mr. Mitchell," Chen said in the hallway, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "Elder abuse accusations are serious. They can backfire." Behind her, Jennifer clutched her designer bag with trembling hands, avoiding my eyes. She'd lost weight, stress eating away at her from inside. "Good." Harrison appeared at my elbow. "She hired the dirtiest fighter in Phoenix," he whispered. "Chen doesn't just bend rules, she breaks them." Prosecutor Dennis Murphy arrived next, his Irish face flushed with anticipation. He nodded to me, then to Harrison. We'd all worked this courthouse in better days. Now we were here for uglier business. Judge Walter Stone entered at 9 sharp. The Vietnam veteran pin on his lapel caught the light. He wore it every day, had since 1975. Stone had no patience for thieves, less for those who stole from family. Jennifer's hands started shaking harder. Harrison presented the evidence methodically. Original trust documents, bank statements. The forensic analysis appeared on the courtroom screen, Dr. Chen testifying via secure video link. Every forged signature magnified, every fraudulent date highlighted. Stone leaned forward, studying the documents himself, his reading glasses sliding down his nose. "Ms. Carter," Stone's voice could have frozen the desert. "Your passport, please," Chen objected. Overruled, Chen objected again. Stone's glare could have melted steel. "Your client is a flight risk counselor. The passport stays with the court." Jennifer's face crumpled. During recess, I headed for the bathroom. She followed, checking the hallway for witnesses before cornering me by the sinks. The fluorescent lights made her look skeletal, makeup running, desperation leaking through her perfect facade. "I have $200,000 in cash," she hissed. "Untraceable. Take it and tell them you were confused." My phone recorded from my shirt pocket. "You stole my retirement and call it love?" Her face twisted into something I didn't recognize. "You were supposed to love me unconditionally." Unconditional love doesn't mean unconditional theft, Jennifer. Michael has friends, dangerous friends. They know where you stay. So do the police. She grabbed my arm, nails digging in. "Why can't you just die like Mom did, quiet and grateful for what we gave you?" There it was, the truth beneath the performance. I pulled free and left her crying in that bathroom, or pretending to cry. I couldn't tell anymore and didn't care. Murphy waited in the courthouse cafe, coffee black, expression eager. I played him the recording on my phone. His smile widened with each word. "Witness tampering, attempted bribery, and that bit about your wife." He shook his head. "Consciousness of guilt. She just made my case." "Let her think I'm considering it," I said. "You want her confident? I want her careless." My phone buzzed. Unknown number. A photo appeared. My hotel room door, taken from the hallway. The message started loading. "Your daughter says you won't listen to reason. Let me explain the stakes." M. 4 days had passed since Michael's text. I'd hired Tom Rodriguez, an off-duty Phoenix cop, to shadow me discreetly. Today I was driving to Jennifer's house to collect my tools, a meeting she'd arranged with an email dripping with fake concern. "Dad, you left some things in the garage. Come get them before we donate them." The circular driveway hadn't changed. Neither had the perfect lawn that Michael paid someone else to maintain. Jennifer opened the door wearing tennis whites, though she hadn't played tennis since high school, performance costume. "Oh good, you're here," her voice carried across the neighborhood. "Everyone, my father's here for his things." Mrs. Henderson was watering her roses. Mr. Patel walked his ancient beagle. The Chesterfield twins played in their yard. Jennifer had assembled an audience. Michael emerged shirtless despite the morning chill, beer in hand at 10 o'clock. His belly had expanded since I'd last seen him, stress eating, or just giving up the pretense of fitness. The garage smelled like motor oil and broken promises. My tools lay scattered across the concrete floor, some obviously damaged. My father's hammer, the one he'd carried through World War II, had fresh dents in the handle. Jennifer watched me catalog each piece of destruction, her smile sharp as broken glass. "Look, everyone, my father the charity case." She projected her voice like a community theater actress. "Can't even afford storage." Michael accidentally knocked over my toolbox, sending wrenches clattering. "Oops, clumsy me." I photographed everything with my phone. Jennifer's nervous laughter echoed off the garage walls. "Maybe the shelter has room for you, Dad. They take seniors, right?" "Here's $20, Michael slurred, pulling a crumpled bill from his pocket. "Buy yourself lunch, old man." Mrs. Henderson had stopped watering. Her expression shifted from confusion to horror as Jennifer picked up my military medals, Bronze Star, Purple Heart, and tossed them onto the lawn like trash. "These old things? Who keeps this junk?" The photo album landed next, Michael's foot accidentally crushing it. Pictures of Jennifer's first birthday scattered across the driveway. Her mother's smile, frozen in time, lay beneath his heel. "This is shameful," Mrs. Henderson said, approaching. "Mind your own business, Helen." Jennifer's mask slipped for a second, raw, ugly showing through. I helped Mrs. Henderson with her groceries while Jennifer and Michael exchanged worried glances. Every neighbor was recording on their phones. The Chesterfield twins' mother had come outside, mouth open in shock. "What's funny about being homeless, Dad?" Jennifer's voice cracked slightly. I kept smiling, loading my damaged possessions into the rental car. Each destroyed tool was evidence. Each cruel word was testimony. They'd invited witnesses to their performance, not realizing they were casting jury members. "Thank you for witnessing this, Helen," I said quietly. "Robert, I'm so sorry about this." "What's that supposed to mean?" Michael stumbled forward, beer sloshing. I drove away with my father's broken hammer on the passenger seat. My phone rang immediately, Harrison's emergency tone. "Robert, you need to know something about the house." Jennifer's text arrived simultaneously. "Why were you smiling?" I pulled over, seeing both messages. Harrison's voice continued through the speakers. "It's not what we thought. The trust actually..." Money leaves footprints, and Michael had been tap dancing in wet cement for years. Vincent Morales' text arrived at 7 a.m. on May 20th, pulling me from the first decent sleep I'd had in weeks. The attached photo showed Michael at a warehouse in South Phoenix, flanked by Tony Torino and a mountain of muscle everyone called Big Eddie. Michael's body language screamed prey, shoulders hunched, hands shaking as he signed something. Time to accelerate everything. The hotel business center's ancient computers hummed like dying insects, but they'd serve my purpose. I created a new email account through a VPN that bounced my signal through 3 countries. The message to the IRS Criminal Investigation Division was clinical, precise. 40 years of legal training distilled into perfect anonymity. Jennifer's Cayman account screenshots, Michael's maze of LLCs, the $650,000 house sale proceeds that had taken interesting detours before reaching their supposed destination. The auto response came immediately. Case IRS 2025 AZ 4847 created. Thank you for reporting suspected tax fraud. Morales called while I was still at the computer. They're at Michael's office right now. My contact in building security is streaming this to me. Through his phone, I watched 3 men in $1,000 suits enter Phoenix Financial Plaza. Even through security footage, their purpose was obvious. Collection, not negotiation. Michael was visible through his office glass, pacing, gesturing wildly. 47 minutes. That's how long they stayed. When Michael emerged, his shirt was untucked, sweat stains visible even on the grainy footage. "He's going to the bank," Morales narrated as Michael's Porsche, soon to be repossessed, pulled into Wells Fargo. "And he's coming out empty-handed. The accounts are frozen." Michael's desperate call to Jennifer came next, captured by Morales' surveillance. "Jen, they came to my office, in front of my partners. The bank won't give me anything. Your dad has destroyed us." May 25th brought federal attention. IRS agent Dylan Ross looked younger than my son David, but his eyes held the hunger of someone building a career on big cases. We met in the federal building downtown, the air conditioning aggressive enough to hang meat. "Mr. Mitchell, your garage cleaning was quite productive," Ross said, spreading Jennifer's financial documents across his metal desk. This matches patterns we've been tracking: elderly targeting, systematic fraud, interstate commerce violations. I just found these papers and thought someone should see them, I said, maintaining the pretense. Ross smiled. He wasn't buying it, but he didn't care. We've frozen 14 accounts so far. There's a property in Sedona we weren't aware of. Did your daughter mention that? She hadn't. Another secret, another betrayal. May 31st, Jennifer called, hysterical. Papers rustled in the background, drawers slammed. The Cayman account is empty, $300,000 gone. Michael's voice, distant but clear. It's not what you think. The sound of a slap, phone clattering, her voice rising. You stole from me while I stole for you? Jen, the collectors, they knew about the account somehow. Liar, you've been stealing from me the whole time. The line went dead. I sat in my hotel room, listening to the silence, feeling nothing but cold satisfaction. The criminals were eating each other. My phone rang again. Unknown number. Heavy breathing filled my ear. Then Michael's voice, slurred and desperate. Your daughter doesn't know everything. About the trust, about her mother. Meet me. Sounds of struggle, something breaking. Jennifer's voice, sharp as winter. Don't you dare contact my father. This is your mess, not his. The sound of Michael hitting something hard. A wall, floor, then nothing. 5 days passed before I saw either of them again. June 10th. The courthouse looked different with media vans surrounding it like carrion birds. Someone had leaked the story, probably Ross, building his reputation. Daughter steals dying father's home, ran across the local news ticker. I wasn't dying, but accuracy had never been journalism's strength. Jennifer arrived in a borrowed suit that didn't fit right, her designer wardrobe presumably sold or seized. No, Michael. A bench warrant would be issued for his absence. She looked smaller, older, like grief had been eating her from inside. When our eyes met, hers held a question she didn't have the courage to voice. Harrison had saved the revelation for maximum impact. Your Honor, he said, standing slowly, theatrically. The defense has operated under a fundamental misunderstanding. May I present the original Mitchell family trust documents, established 1995. The projector displayed papers I'd kept hidden for 20 years. Jennifer leaned forward, squinting at the screen. The Mitchell family trust isn't just the house, Harrison continued. It encompasses 14 properties, various investment accounts, bonds, and commercial real estate holdings. Current valuation, approximately $3.2 million. Jennifer's face transformed. Disbelief, rage, then something like death. Her lawyer whispered frantically in her ear, but she wasn't listening. Judge Stone's voice could have frozen the desert. Ms. Carter, you attempted to steal a single asset from a trust worth millions? I didn't. He never... Jennifer's voice cracked. I finally stood, surprising everyone, including Harrison. Your Honor, may I address my daughter? Stone nodded. The trust was your inheritance protection, Jennifer. Your mother and I established it when you were 16, after watching her parents lose everything to a con artist. Every safeguard, every complexity. It was all to ensure you and David would be secure. If you'd waited 15 months until your 40th birthday, you could have accessed your share freely. If you'd asked, I would have helped with Michael's debts. Instead, but you never told me, because your mother made me promise. She knew you'd married Michael for the wrong reasons, saw his nature before anyone else. She said if you knew about the money, he'd find a way to take it. She was right. Prosecutor Murphy stood. The state charges Jennifer Carter with elder abuse, forgery, fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, and attempted murder for hire. That last charge was new. Ross had been busy. Your Honor, Jennifer's lawyer pleaded, my client needs time to arrange. Denied. Given the attempted flight with $50,000 in cash and the expired passport found in her possession, Ms. Carter is remanded immediately. The bailiff approached with handcuffs. In that moment, Jennifer looked exactly like the 5-year-old who'd stolen cookies and blamed the dog, caught, cornered, unable to comprehend consequences. But I'm your daughter, she said as the metal clicked around her wrists. That's why this hurts, I replied. They led her past the cameras, past the microphones, past the life she'd built on lies. Her designer heels, the last pair she owned, clicked against marble like a countdown to the end. In the parking garage, exhaustion hit like a physical weight. 3 months of war had ended, not with victory, but with necessary justice. My phone buzzed twice. Harrison. Michael found, in custody. He's talking, trading information for reduced charges. The second message was from an unknown number. A photo loaded slowly. My old house, afternoon sun painting it gold. The Thompsons stood on the porch, waving, smiling like people who'd won the lottery. The caption began, "Mr. Mitchell, we'd like to discuss. Insurance companies don't forgive. They systematically destroy those who cost them money." Harrison's conference room felt different on June 15th. Instead of war planning, we were discussing resolution. 3 representatives from Fidelity Title Insurance sat across from the Thompsons and their lawyer, Christine Park. Margaret Chen, the lead adjuster, had the efficiency of someone who'd processed tragedy into spreadsheets for 20 years. "This is the clearest fraud case we've handled," Chen said, sliding documents across the mahogany table. "Full compensation plus damages, $725,000. Samuel Thompson's hand trembled as he reached for the papers. Gloria wiped her eyes with a tissue that had seen better moments. They weren't crying over money. They were crying over vindication, over the months of uncertainty ending. "We just wanted our retirement home," Gloria whispered. Chen's expression softened marginally. "You'll have it. We'll recover our costs from the perpetrators through subrogation. Ms. Carter and Mr. Carter will be paying us back for decades." Samuel shook my hand with both of his, grip firm despite his age. "Thank you, Mr. Mitchell, for fighting, for not letting them win." 5 days later, I sat in federal court watching Michael face his reckoning. Orange jumpsuit hanging on his diminished frame, wrist shackles clicking against the defendant's table. The IRS Criminal Investigation Division had been thorough. 18 months they'd requested, 18 months they'd get. Agent Ross testified with the dispassion of someone reciting grocery lists. Unreported gambling winnings from his lucky streak 3 years ago, before the losses mounted. Structured deposits designed to avoid bank reporting requirements. Money laundered through 14 shell companies with names like Desert Holdings LLC and Sunshine Ventures Corp. "Mr. Carter," the federal judge intoned, her voice cutting through Michael's visible trembling. "Tax evasion undermines society's foundation. 18 months in federal custody, followed by 3 years supervised release." Michael's hollow eyes found mine across the courtroom. No anger there anymore, just the recognition of a man who'd gambled everything and lost. The U.S. Marshals led him away, his expensive lawyer already packing up, retainer exhausted. July 1st brought Jennifer's turn in state court. She'd lost weight, her borrowed business suit hanging loose, drugstore makeup unable to hide the shadows under her eyes. The prosecutor offered a deal: 2 years probation, full restitution, 500 hours community service, mandatory therapy. "I accept responsibility," Jennifer said, her voice cracking like dried leather. "I betrayed the person who loved me most." Judge Stone reviewed her lack of prior convictions, the letters from her employer, former employer now, describing years of good work before this madness. The gavel fell with finality. "Restitution totals $1.2 million, the prosecutor announced, payable over 20 years. Jennifer walked out in civilian clothes, but imprisoned by debt that would follow her past retirement age. No jail cell, but no freedom either. The auction happened July 15th. I didn't attend, but Harrison sent photos. Jennifer's house in Paradise Valley, the monument to their pretense, sold for barely enough to cover the mortgage. The Porsche, the Range Rover, the designer furniture, all gone to the highest bidder. An entire life liquidated in 90 minutes. "Opening bid for lot 47, the auctioneer's voice echoed in the video Harrison sent. Custom bedrooms set from restoration hardware. Everything they'd built on stolen foundations collapsed into strangers' hands. My hotel phone rang that evening, the concierge's practiced voice. "Mr. Mitchell, you have a visitor in the lobby." The elevator descent felt longer than 14 floors. Who would visit now? The media had moved on to fresher tragedies. The lawyers were paid and gone. Jennifer stood by the lobby fountain, holding an envelope with shaking hands. Not the Jennifer who'd stolen my house, not the Jennifer who'd planned my death. This was someone else, hollow-cheeked, wearing Walmart clothes, holding herself like she expected to be hit. "Dad," she started, her voice barely audible above the fountain's splash. "I need to tell you the truth about Mom's death." The words hung between us like charged particles. I led her to the lobby's sitting area, away from the concierge's curious glances. She sat on the edge of an overstuffed chair, envelope clutched like a lifeline. "Michael started manipulating me during Mom's final months," she said, eyes fixed on her worn sneakers. "He knew about the trust then. He'd gone through your papers while you were at the hospital every day. He said if I didn't help him, he'd make sure you spent everything on her care, that there'd be nothing left. Your mother's care was never about money. I know that now, but grief and greed, they twisted everything. Michael convinced me you'd live forever, that the trust would never benefit us, that we deserve something for our patients." August 1st, I turned my key in my original lock. The Thompsons had returned the house to me in better condition than they'd found it. New kitchen backsplash, xeriscaped garden that would survive any drought, fresh paint throughout. They'd loved it properly, briefly. Mrs. Henderson emerged first, carrying a casserole that smelled like the 1970s in the best way. Mr. Patel followed with his ancient beagle. The Chesterfield twins' mother brought cookies. The neighborhood had been watching, waiting. "Welcome home," Mrs. Henderson said simply. Home felt different now, not violated but transformed. Every room held memory and renewal simultaneously. The Thompsons had left a note. "Thank you for fighting for what's right. This house has good bones and better karma now." August 10th brought a letter. Jennifer's careful handwriting on cheap paper, no return address. "I'm working 2 jobs, morning shift at Target, evening at Denny's, living in a studio apartment in Glendale. It's honest work. I see now the house was never about property. It was about what I was willing to destroy to get it. I'm not asking for forgiveness, just understanding. Your daughter, Jennifer." I read it 3 times, then filed it with the legal papers. Not ready for forgiveness, but acknowledging the attempt. The barbecue on August 15th wasn't planned. Neighbors just appeared with food, drinks, stories. We gathered in the backyard the Thompsons had improved, smoke from Mr. Patel's grill mixing with evening air. "You handled this with such dignity," Mrs. Henderson said, her 3rd glass of wine making her philosophical. "Most people would have just raged." "Rage is expensive," I replied. "Justice has better returns." They laughed, understanding that some wounds teach valuable lessons. August 25th, doorbell at dinner time. Jennifer stood on my porch, their porch, the one where she'd been raised, holding pay stubs and an envelope. "First restitution payment," she said, extending $200 in worn 20s. "The Thompsons will get theirs next month." Calloused hands from restaurant work, drugstore shampoo. Humility earned through labor. This wasn't the daughter who'd stolen from me, or the child I'd raised. This was someone in between, in transition. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," she repeated. "Just accountability." "Call me when you've paid the Thompsons for a full year," I said. "We'll talk then." She nodded, turned to leave, then stopped. "Mom would be ashamed of what I became, but maybe proud of who you're becoming." She walked away with straighter shoulders than she'd arrived with. A neighbor child asked about the family photos I'd rehung in the hallway. I explained about choices and consequences, about how people can lose themselves and maybe find something better. That evening, I called Harrison about setting up education trusts, not for Jennifer's future children, should she have them, but structured so they couldn't be touched by parents' greed. Some lessons need teaching only once. The phone rang again, the Thompsons calling from their new house in Sedona. They'd found peace there, they said. Their insurance settlement had bought them something smaller, but theirs completely. We talked about gardens, about second chances, about justice served. Looking out at the desert sunset, I thought about family, about blood and betrayal, about redemption earned through accountability. My father's tools sat cleaned and organized in the garage, waiting for projects that would build rather than destroy. Family isn't about blood or property. It's about choosing to do right when wrong is easier. Jennifer had chosen wrong, was paying for it, might someday choose better. Michael had chosen wrong and would pay longer. I had chosen justice over revenge, and that made all the difference. The house stood solid around me, walls that had seen love and loss, theft and recovery. Tomorrow, David would fly in from Seattle. We'd discuss the trust, how to protect it, how to ensure this never happened again. But tonight, I sat in my reclaimed home, at peace with the price of justice and the possibility, just the possibility, of redemption. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.